This is the Friday the Nick podcast in association with the BFG Podcast. Today with me and Jonathan and Denise are here to talk about a couple of Phoenix women games that have happened recently. Newcastle United and Newcastle Jets, and Adelaide United. So what did everyone think of the Newcastle game?
Do we really have to talk about the Newcastle game? Like, seriously, we lost 3-2. I mean,
it was a heartbreaker. They wanted to win this so much. It was very transitional. It was a little frenetic. It was
It was end to end, non-stop. It's like literally the ball's at one end and then the ball's at the other end and the ball's back again. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, which is fun if you have legs to run all that time. If you don't have, the fitness or whatever, then it's hard, and it becomes hard and desperate, and you make mistakes, and I feel so bad for them. I don't know what to say.
I'm watching this game. For me, the thing I really admired about it was Paige just had a baller.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
If anyone could do end to end, it's Paige Satchel, right? And she, the nice thing though, is she did control the ball on the flanks, right? She, got to the end line and generally controlled the ball and put in some really nice crosses. There was one, it wasn't one of the goals with, so there was a Robertson goal, and then there's a Hassett goal, right?
Yeah. And then for them, there was the unfortunate ball that came off Kate Taylor's leg as she tried to bat it away, which just caught Bree completely off guard. That was unfortunate. But there was also that absolute banger of a goal where the Newcastle player had no room to move and somehow managed to get the ball on this dynamic angle into the goal. It was just like, if the football gods were smiling down, they were doing it for Newcastle, because that angle on that goal was quite something.
Yeah, that was Cass Davis to Lauren Allen, I think, and that was incredible. That was a really nice goal. Anything else? What's that?
They are good players, Cass Allen, and yeah.
They are.
Yeah, but like the thing is, like, you're right, like they are good players, but Newcastle Jets have the worst defensive record in the league for the season. They let through an average of 3 goals per game before we played them. The stars were there. We had our best team. That's it. Just
yeah, to lose in the 81st minute, like to flat out lose after such a good attempt to win, that was hard. And they, you listen to the, you just watch the players afterwards. They were not happy.
So since because as an active supporters group, we keep in touch with the players, a little here and there on Instagram, and I can absolutely tell you, hand on heart, that they were heartbroken by losing to Newcastle. And Paige Satchel, Paige messaged, and she was just like, "Oh my God, like that was just one of the hardest defeats. That was rugged, like that was." Yeah.
You do a great job keeping in touch with the athletes, Jonathan, and I'm sure they appreciate it. When it's easy to, like, when things go bad, it's easy to go, well, I have all these other hobbies, right? And you have and we all do have an innate sense of, geez, that's hard. It's got to be hard right now. It's whatever o'clock at night or whatever o'clock in the morning, and they're still like frustrated and hurting, and it's been a hard season.
And
yeah, you go, Blake.
As I said on Twitter the other night, like we gotta, it's gotta be a fine balance. We gotta be there for the players, and we gotta look after the mental health, and that as well, because having such a hard season can be so impactful on the mental health, as we've seen in the previous season with a couple of players. So recruitment as I said the other day, recruitment needs to be better, and the so that we've got more depth, and so the players don't get drained basically.
Let's come back to that in the Adelaide game.
Right.
So what you're saying is right, Blake, but let's come back to that and touch on that in the Adelaide game. So let's finish the Newcastle game first, if that's okay.
Sorry.
I don't know. Big hug all around. I mean,
what you're saying is right.
It wasn't.
When Coach Nat or when Callan or Cam took over and coached in the second game as the lead coach, he did make some of those changes, and we did see a positive effect. But before we move on to that game, I just like that, there were some standout players for Newcastle, and there's one player in particular who I watched last season, watched again this season, and that's Tessa Tamworth, I think it is, Tessa, who she played as captain for Newcastle on the weekend. It was her 50th game. She played for Newcastle last year, did well, went to Europe, and she was playing in Switzerland. Didn't work, so she came back to Newcastle, and she's made a difference to that Newcastle Jets team since her return. And the other thing is that we need to acknowledge Gary Van Egmond, who has made a significant difference to the Jets team, because they were not playing good before. He came in, he's turned them around, and they're doing okay. And they've got the likes of Cannon, what's her name? Cannon Clough, the American girl. Yeah, that was a deep, they were only playing 3 at the back on the weekend, and they did pretty good. So just want to give credit where credit's due to the Newcastle team.
And speaking of which, we got to give credit to Mickey Robertson. I mean, awesome. She finally, it's just a good feeling to feel the back of the net like wiggle. And she got it in there.
There was a bit of wiggle in the other game, but we're getting there. We haven't got there yet.
Yeah, we're just about there. So, obviously we ended up doing our player of the match, and I hope I can remember who it is. Was it? No, it wasn't Grace for that game, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Yes,
Wasn't it? It was Grace.
Yeah. Thanks. So do we have a podcast like player that between you two that you would have picked, or do you agree with the group consensus on that?
I mean, I think I picked out Satchel as well. I actually chose like 3 or 4 names. I'm like, any of these, would have worked. It's picking out goal scorers always helps too.
Yeah.
Robertson.
So from a couple of people offline, and even Coach Nat said that Marissa Vandermeer had the best game of her season. So,
absolutely. Yep. No, I think she was on definitely the short list, and she was great, and she is great, and people are talking about her for the Ferns, and I absolutely.
So we'll get to that in a second too for a bit. We might touch on it slightly, but we'll get more in depth with that next week. But then we fast forward to Tuesday night, and we have the Adelaide game. So pretty tough turnaround for the girls. 2 games in about 3 or 4 days, and by the end of this week it'll be 3 and 7. So what did we think of the Adelaide game as opposed to the Newcastle one?
Denise, what did you think of the Adelaide game?
We have a funny story about that. I row in the mornings, and I row at I get up at 5 a.m. and I'm like, oh, it starts at 9, and I really haven't been sleeping much. So the irony is that it's the one match where I was like, I'll just watch tomorrow. Life won't, everything will be fine. And I'm getting these texts like, wake up, wake up, sleep. Holly's like, sleep, that doesn't matter. Who cares about sleep? Anyway, so I had to watch it the next day, which was unfortunate because it was very, very exciting. It was like Wellington Phoenix after dark energy. I loved it.
It's interesting you touch on that, because literally, like, when you're watching the game, it did get dark. Like, they played the first half and it was light, and in the second half it was dark. It's like, oh, it's a bit strange, but
no, I wish there were more matches. Like, why do you have to play the match in the middle of the day in Australia in the summer? I mean, the night matches are fun. Like, the league is a little bit too oriented to families, right? They think, oh, I'm going to bring out it's all about the kids. Sometimes it should be about the big party at night with, and the kids are maybe there, maybe not. Like, there's different kind of energy you can bring out. And that game, to me, had some different energy.
Okay, talking about bringing out the kids. This is a segue. Nice way. The kids. Millie Clegg, Charlotte Lancaster, Claudia Chico, Candy, George Candy, Mona Walker, Terere Moana Walker. All the kids came out to play, and boy, did they play. It was fantastic. And Candy in particular, there was one goal, and literally she was at full stretch, like Superwoman going woo out to the side, and she got this gigantic punch away to stop the goal. Phenomenal moment in the game. I managed to record it, and I quickly chucked it on social media. It's like, it's only 5 seconds, but holy crap, what a save.
That was good. And they needed that save at that moment because they were coming back. It was like that whole apartment. Millie Clegg in an interview told us who she lived with. Like, her whole apartment was in that game. And I was like, yes, they're going to play well because they're going to play for each other. They're going to have some fun. And they did.
So Millie Clegg, 17, talking about bringing out the kids. 17, 2 goals.
Yeah.
What did you see, Blake?
Before we get on to a little tiny bit of international news, I want to touch on the coaching thing that we were talking about a little bit earlier. Switching up the coaching staff was a bit of an interesting tactic for me, and it sort of crossed my mind. Are we foreshadowing 23-24?
I don't understand. Did Colin actually become the head coach? You sure?
He subbed in. He was number 1 coach, and Nat was coach number 2.
She was
Is it a licensing thing, or was it a organization thing?
No, Nat was doing her pro license for something, and so he took over and was the number 1 coach on the day. So he had the number 1 seat. Nat had number 2 seat. So he was the one calling the shots.
Yeah, dude doesn't need to get yellow cards. Remember that in the Jets game? I was like, what are you doing? Like, why kick the ball away? And then it just kind of, the momentum shifted at that moment too. And I'm like, no, don't give me that angry white guy energy.
On your point, Blake, and this is going a little bit wider, but the Phoenix women's team is largely dictated to by the Ferns squad and the Ferns coaching team. So will we see a change in coach? I don't know. Will we see a change in the players who are playing? I don't know. It depends, because next season is after the World Cup. So that whole thing around the Ferns wanting to use the next women as a development squad will dissipate, hopefully. So who knows?
Because I believe it might be another season, but I'm pretty sure, and if someone can correct us, maybe that'd be helpful. The restrictions run out after this season, I think. Or it could be one more.
Right.
It's either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
I think it was 2024, but I could be wrong on that.
So maybe.
Or I could be completely wrong on that. So I wouldn't quote us on that. But there was a hint that those restrictions are going to be lifted, but I'm not convinced till I see it in writing and advertised. So what we're talking about is the the minimum number of Australian players you have to have on a team, and then basically the Kiwis are part of the same pool as international. So if there are 4 internationals that are allowed on each team, and if we were to get an international, we would have to give up a Kiwi instead of giving up an Australian. And, you can understand the reasons from the Australian side. I mean, I don't believe them as good, but, we started the league and we want Australians to play all over, and that's fine too. But I think it's been philosophically just a hindrance for the team.
So getting back to the game, just pushing that aside, getting back to the game, how good was Emma Main?
Oh.
How good is Emma Main? Like,
she just walked in and made some incredible passes. And then I was like, who are you? Can we get to know you? Can you keep playing for the team? One of the things I don't know is I know the team, like I've mentioned, from the top down. So I haven't seen her play as much on the big stages. And I should, because, that's my bad. I'm still getting to know these younger players.
So she's a local where I live, and I've actually seen her play a few times, and she's actually a really good player. So,
that layoff, her putting the ball into space for Millie Clegg and the other players to run onto, to have that kind of vision, field vision, it's almost like her and Mickey Robertson have kind of just gone, boom, here we are. We've kicked out. Let us play. We can do this. And it's
her, from what's been talked about locally, her vision has always been sensational. She's also known when she gets more time on the field for her goal scoring. She's been known to be quite an impactful player. So we saw some of those traits on Tuesday, and hopefully we'll get to see more later this weekend. But Millie Clegg was amazing too, and what a week for her.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, to say the obvious, getting finally called up to the Ferns. They said they weren't going to call her up until basically the Phoenix were done, and that is true. At 17, she's young, but she's, she has size. Some of these Phoenix players are, spindly. They're small. They're still getting their muscle, and at 17, she's tall. She's, she's not scrawny. She's aggressive. I mean, she's not going to punch anyone in the nose, but she's she has her nose for goals. She knows how to go and get there. And it was really fun to see her play make.
Yeah, she's a good player. She really is. And
so other players, speaking of the kids, back to letting the kids play. Saskia got some minutes, and she was fired up. It was good to see Saskia run. Zoe got another run, and Zoe again didn't like what happened a couple of weeks ago, was brought on as a winger rather than a wing back or a defensive player. And she's so good in that midfield, just sitting out there on the wing and seeing her when the Knicks had a couple of corners, she's 6'1", and she's really tall and has this presence about her, which is I was Zoe is very, very cool. And then, of course, Emma Main came on. Ava Pritchard had a good game, apart from that big. I mean, she had the most perfect setup to put the ball in the net, but it was just that split second in front of her, and she just couldn't connect. But yeah. And another player that I shouldn't have been laughing, but was, and that was Claudia Chico. And I messaged Claudia's mum, and I was like, "Oh my God, this girl is skating on thin ice with her defence tonight. She's going to get a red card." And she's
a tough.
Like, with all these laughing faces, like, we're seeing this girl fired up, like she's giving it. I was like, just. Yeah, we're giving it.
I loved it. I was like, this is a tough little chick. Like she's like a, yeah, I loved it. I don't know. Chico sounds Italian to me, so I always kind of go, but I don't know if she's Italian or not. But she was stuck in, like she was doing it. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just gonna kind of zone out. It was like, no, she was dirty in it, and I loved it.
I think the when Claudia got back from the Young Matildas tour, they went to Kyrgyzstan or something like that. And it wasn't that long ago. She's been on fire since she got back. She was in that Young Matildas squad. There is some serious talent, and Claudia was hanging out with those players again. And she's brought some of that back, that fire and passion back to the Knicks. So good to watch.
Just a bit of a fun fact about that tour: they were using her as a striker.
Yeah, she was playing wing, and she got the hat trick in the first game. She got 3 goals.
Well, wasn't the score like 13-0 or some crazy score? I'm like, yeah. I mean, 3 goals is great. She will remember that forever, but it was like a blowout. So I can't remember the final score, but it was a lot of goals Australia got against the other team.
So have a listen to this. So this is who the Knicks managed to beat in the Adelaide team: Grove, Tonkin, Hodgson, Holmes, Barbieri, and Fiona Works. All of those players are quality players, and our Knicks team, with some younger players who haven't had a whole lot of game time this season, came out and blew them off the park 3-1. Yeah. That is huge.
What do you think happened? I mean, tell me, what's your gut instinct on that?
No fear. No fear. And the other thing was, I thought that from what I could see, Chloe Knott before Christmas and a little bit into this year was not playing the greatest football. And part of that was because of the coaching and the way that the Knicks coaching was trying to say, play up from the back. And so Chloe would have the ball, and she's like, what did coach say? Play up from the back. So she would pass it back in a defensive move. Tuesday night, there was a couple of times, and she had the ball in the open, and I was like, please do something with it. And you could see in her mind this little flash of play it back. And she went, no, stuff that. She overrode that thing and took the ball out into the open and was passing it to the flanks. And she's really playing in that attacking midfielder role with some creativity and some energy. And that's been a huge part of the revival of the Knicks this season, is Chloe Knott finding that, why she's there.
Yeah, I think, you know,
a big fan of Chloe.
Yeah. Chloe's great. She's so mature. I want to be Chloe Knott. I think the midfield will be an interesting piece of the puzzle going forward for sure. You know, that's the place where I'm very, very curious as to how this is going to continue to develop over the years.
Do we want to start to talk about who we think will stay and go, or do we want to leave that for next time?
I think we leave that after the season, you know, like maybe even just summing up the season, because we don't know. We're literally just, you know, picking our nose on that one and I'm putting a booger on the wall. I mean, okay. we don't know. I mean, we really don't. I mean, that's so speculative. But What I will say is this younger group. I mean, it's interesting. They played well as a group, I think. I think like hockey style, I've seen different teams literally sub in like 4 people at once. I think, hockey style, either having them all start or coming in as more as a unit would have been interesting as well. I mean, you happen to see them start, but since COVID, substitutions aren't just 3 anymore. I think you have 5 in this league? How many subs do we have?
The men have 5. I'm not sure about the women.
It's 4 or 5.
Yeah, no, it's 5, and then one
5,
of those
yeah.
is a goalkeeper.
Yeah. Yeah. And do we have the rule that if you get bonked in the head that you can sub someone in anyway? Or is that not implemented? And if it's not, it should be.
I don't think we've got that here yet.
So if you have in other leagues, if you have like a head injury, like a bad head injury, it doesn't count as a sub. Yeah.
That could be coming in soon, I think.
Yeah, and some leagues actually have a rule where that person can come back in, actually. So that's even more interesting. I'm all for protecting people's heads because I have friends, I have whatever who have had concussions and it's changed their life. Like, oh, I can get back in and play. The more we can protect that, the better.
There was one in the game that we had because Mona and Walker. That's how she got hit. She had a huge knock. And then I was watching the game last night, and there was another one where the player full on, like the ball just goes splat, like in the head. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I saw that last night too. Oh, gosh. And it was like,
yeah.
And I felt so bad for that player. I mean, so bad. This is, I know it's part of the game, but I'm pro protect heads, pro protect kids' heads. I don't think kids should be heading, at a young age. All those things.
Just before we break, I want to say on the Adelaide side, how sorry I feel for them because that coach was coach of the year last year, and he's had such a forefront growth. Like they're talking about that being his last game that he coached for them now. So to go from being coach of the year to having to and to possibly leave the team is very, very unfortunate and a bit of a fall from grace for that team.
Are you sure about that? I mean, again, I get cringy when we start speculating about people's jobs.
That's what they were saying on the commentary the other night. Yeah.
So just while we're talking about that, we need to do a little acknowledgement, a little shout out, a little hug for Rose, who is on the Massive Dub podcast, because Rose is from Adelaide. And Rose, as much as we love you and we love Adelaide, we kicked your butt. Yeah! So from us to you, please accept our condolences.
Like the evil Smithers laugh. Oh, yeah. I don't, it's fun. It's fun. I like rivalries. I think the more rivalries you can have in women's football, the better. I think it's good. It's fun. And I felt like that was a good game.
Yeah, it was a very good game.
But the reason I brought it up was because I just feel a bit sad for that guy because, he was talked about last season as one of the best coaches in Australia. Now it's the complete opposite, and I just feel really heartbroken for the guy. It's just sad. But anyway, anything else? Should I go back to what I was saying earlier?
So go for it.
So I was saying, so back to what I was saying earlier. The player welfare and all that kind of stuff really gets to me sometimes. And the recruitment need to be better. And especially after the Newcastle games, we need to be looking after. That's why we keep in touch with them, because we need to. Some people need to show that they're there for them and stuff like that. And I hope that next season, with them being so down at times this season, that the club are really taking that into account and improve their depth and recruitment for the coming season. That's something I'd really like to see, because the mental health issue side of it needs to stop. And sorry, I get a bit raunchy on this, but it's just something that really gets to me a little bit. And 3 games in 7 days is not in my favour either. Yes, I get that it was the end of the season, but they could have put it earlier and spaced it out a bit. But, it is what it is, and I don't particularly like it. But, yes, that's what I wanted to say.
You're very empathetic, Blake. And it's good to express that. It's a big schedule. These are professional footballers, and every match has an ambulance waiting for them, right? So, or at least there should be an ambulance on site. It's these athletes put their bodies on the line every week, and we just kind of armchair quarterback it and just sort of go, oh, should have been this, should have been that, and oh, that was a big, smack in the head. But when you actually feel your nose, like Betsy Hassett, like just full on broke her nose. If I broke my nose, I would be like, I'm not playing this anymore. and then these people really, really do put their body on the line. And they're going to Europe after this, a bunch of them. And that's a big, long flight. I hope they're flying first class. I hope they get their feet rubbed. I mean, they should have treatment sessions and everything. So,
They don't just fly to Europe. They fly to Europe on Sunday morning. So they play for the Knicks in their last game of the A-League season on Saturday afternoon, jump on a plane on Sunday morning and fly to Europe. And these are players who are 17, 19, 20, 21, like at the young end. Like, yeah.
Yeah, like I say, I hope they get treatment, for their bodies. I don't know what to say. It's, this schedule was created because it was too hot for a midday game, right?
Yeah.
And so now you're cramming it all in at the end. But the answer is these midday games are bad for people's health.
Yeah.
And then alongside that too, like we're talking about letting the kids play, the Knicks have a 22-player squad. Some of these players have not had much game time at all. I'm 99% sure that the Phoenix have had the lowest amount of rotation of players through the season. And we were having a conversation about this the other day on socials and saying, well, we need result. We're now in a results football competition. If they don't get results, people don't won't support them, blah, 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 which I totally get. But we can't, some of these girls are, 17 through to 21. That's physically a demanding time just when you're young. And then throw on top of that, hey, I'm a professional footballer. I think a little bit more rotation throughout the season could have been good.
Yeah, I think you were proven correct on that with this match, with this Adelaide match. You were 100% proven correct. Like some fresh legs, some fresh attitude, some proving it for either next season or just this season for street cred. They showed that they could do it. Some of these people who were bench warmers got out there and they were like, yeah, we can do this. And see ya, we're going to beat this team. And I loved it. And you were absolutely proven right on that point, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Anything else before we wrap this?
I don't say that often, do I?
Seeing. I mean, we love Bree Brie is magnificent. She's a beautiful human being, great goalkeeper. But seeing Georgia Candy come out and do her thing was like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, she's got some sass. She's got some fire. Like, that girl is all about the goalkeeping, and it was so good to watch.
We do have the coolest goalkeeping crew, don't we?
Woo!
They're like they're from Lily to Brie to Candy. I mean, they're just all so cool.
Yeah.
And they're awesome players, and it's really unfortunate that Lily didn't get in at all. Our hearts go out to her. We don't know what's going on. I would love to have all three goalkeepers on this podcast at once, because they probably all like each other. I mean, I don't know this for sure, but they probably would. And I think that would be a blast of an interview, because I think, Lily, if the people are bickering or something, she would keep it in order.
So I after the game the other night, I just quickly dropped a message to Lily like, hey, we haven't seen you, we haven't heard from you. Hope all is well. And she's like, yeah, things are good, love it going. So, and that's Lily, like 100%. Like, it takes a lot to get her down, because she's just so bubbly and beautiful, and so she's doing okay. You're right.
She has more or less left to her career. She should not pack it up. I know the Phoenix, when we were there, we were like, Lily, if you ever want a job, you can have a job. But no, I mean, she should continue to play her position, because she's good at it.
She's like, what, 27? I mean,
exactly.
She's for 7 or 8 years,
Michelle Barnhart in America, she's, I think, backup for the Washington Spirit. She's like 42. Some crazy number like that. She was the backup for Hope Solo for all these years. She was the number 2 behind Hope Solo. It's like the worst time to be like a backup, because she never got to play, and Hope Solo was just the hog of the field, so these goalkeepers, if you keep relatively healthy, can keep going.
Yeah. Just one little final tidbit before we go. We're going to be keeping an eye on Gotham this season.
Yay! So this is fun. This is fun for me. I mean, you guys picked it out, but it's particularly fun for me. So in the off season, we're going to keep track of one NWSL team, and that's Gotham FC out of New York City, New York, New Jersey, to be more specific. And hopefully we can get on Sky Blue, which is their supporters group. And they're just a fun team. So they were last in the league last year. And they have Christy Mewis, they have Lynn Williams, they just have so many incredible, Midge Purse, all these, Ali Krieger, the list goes on and on who they have. And they need to get it together this year from last. And so they went into LAFC. So I'm actually a New Yorker. So I was born in 80 miles north of the city. So when you're like, let's do Gotham, I was like, yes, let's do Gotham. And then I moved to Northern California. So no Northern California, New York person would ever like LA. So when they went into the LA opener, and I don't know how many thousands of people there, the whole place was sold out. And they went in and they beat LA on their opener. And it was just like great. And I was like, this is our sister team for the Knicks, because they're going from last to somewhere, and hopefully somewhere really good. So it'll be fun just to check in a little bit on their matches.
And if anyone watching or listening, however you get this podcast, would like us to try, it might be hard, but like us to try and get a few Gotham players here, maybe let us know.
Just on that, we got a couple of tweets from the Gotham supporters group who are coming to the World Cup to watch the US play, and they're going to be in Wellington. So they're going to hopefully do a scarf swap. So we'll give them a Knicks scarf, and they'll give us a Gotham scarf. So that'll be cool. We're looking forward to that.
Very, very, very cool. Yeah, we're going to hold them to it.
And we'll have more to say about what our status will be for the World Cup coming up in the next couple of months. A bit going on in the background there. But with saying that, we'll leave it there for this episode, and Don't forget to like and subscribe this video if you're watching it on YouTube, if you're listening to it on Spotify or any of your favorite audio platforms. Don't forget to give us a follow, and we will see you on the next one.